You're only allowed 14 clubs in your bag, so having the right clubs in your bag will make a big difference. In 1932, Gene Sarazen invented the sand wedge. It was very different to what we see today, but the idea is the same. It was very difficult to get out of the bunkers because the loft was too strong and the club didn't have enough bounce. Today there are more variations of the sand wedge, which include the lob, gap, and pitching wedge. They all have different lofts and bounces, and are used for different shots. In this video, we will help you understand the main differences between the sand and lob wedge, which will hopefully help you understand if you need it in your bag or not. So let's get started. Lob wedge vs sand wedge in detail. This is where I see the biggest confusion in high handicappers and beginners. They think the lob wedge is a magical club that only professionals can use. It may be a difficult club to use, but it is no different to a sand wedge apart from a small few details. The lob wedge has a loft between 62 and 58 degrees, and a sand wedge is from 56 to 54 degrees. The lob wedge also has a lower bounce ranging from 4 to 12 degrees, and the sand wedge from 8 to 14 degrees. The lob wedge is mainly made in a blade style, meaning it is not very forgiving. This will make it hard for high handicap and beginners to use regardless of the loft and bounce. The sand wedge often comes together in a game improvement set. They range from 4 iron to sand wedge. Basically, this means the sand wedge in the set will be easy enough to hit. The sand wedge also comes in a blade style, which would be used by low handicap players. The sand wedge was the first wedge that was invented. Its sole purpose was to get the ball out of the sand. As the game evolved, it is now used for longer shots and chipping around the greens. Over time, the other wedges were made. This allowed you either hit the ball higher or lower depending on the loft. So, other than the loft and bounce, as well as the sand wedge being made slightly forgiving in some game improvement sets, the lob wedge and sand wedge are basically the same club. The lob wedge should be used for 90% shots and below. You should never hit your lob wedge at full power, as well as for hitting it high. The lob wedge is mainly used around the green, either for chipping and pitching or out of the bunker. It has the most loft out of all your clubs, so that means it will get the ball up in the air the highest. It is handy when hitting 20 to 40 yard pitch shots or when you need to hit over hazard or bunker when you're around the green. We only recommend mid to low handicap players use a lob wedge. Because it has the most loft, it makes it harder to hit than a sand wedge. The club tends to dig into the ground. This all depends on your swing speed and angle of attack. The more you compress the ball, the further it will go. If you hit your lob wedge on the up, take no div off, then it will also go shorter. The best way to choose a lob wedge for your game is to know what your angle of attack is. This will determine your bounce, which is the most important part of the lob wedge. The better player will have a good idea of what their angle of attack is, and will swing the same more consistently, meaning they can choose which bounce works best for them. For mid to high handicap golfers, we recommend going with a lob wedge that has mid to high bounce. This generally makes the club more forgiving as it will not dig into the ground. Pro tip: look for a lob wedge that has heel relief. This means the heel area is ground away slightly, also preventing you from digging the heel into the ground. Another way to prevent this is to have your lob wedge bent slightly flat. As the name states, the sand wedge is great to use out of the bunker. Over time, the sand wedge has become a lot more useful and is used for a number of different shots. It can be used for full shots, pitching, and chipping too. It is great to get over obstacles as it has a lot of loft. We recommend all players should have a sand wedge. Is it great to get out of bunkers, and it is very handy around the greens. It can be used for full shots, pitching, and chipping too. High handicap players should use the sand wedge that comes in their set of irons. Mid to low handicap players can use a more blade style sand wedge. These will be less forgiving, but give you more spin and control around the greens. Choosing a sand wedge is a lot easier than choosing a lob wedge. All sand wedges come from 56 to 54 degrees. You need to match the loft up with the rest of your wedges. Most wedges will have a mid bounce, somewhere around 10 degrees. Yes, the sand wedge is a crucial club in your golf bag. It is an essential part to your short game. You will need it to get out of the bunker, chip, and pitch when around the greens. A sand wedge and lob wedge are very similar clubs. The main differences are the loft and bounce. We recommend high handicap players only use a sand wedge that comes from their iron set. These are a lot more forgiving compared to the blade style wedges. Mid to low handicap players should use blade style wedges. They offer a lot more control and spin. Choosing a right bounce is the most important part of choosing a wedge. The steeper your angle of attack, the higher bounce you need. The shallower your angle of attack, the lower the bounce you need. As a high handicap, you should stick with high bounce, as it is more forgiving. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. That's all for today. We upload sports product review videos every single day, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for the upcoming video notification.